What was the last album you purchased?
Oh.
Either physical or
Well,
digital.
that's a good question because I made a big change last fall to Rdio, which is a subscription music service. And you know, there have been subscription music services for a long time, and of course I was a Pandora user for a long time. But not until Rdio did I make the switch to stopping the practice of buying music. You're paying a monthly fee for all the music that you want. So I haven't bought anything since last fall. Now, I still listen to as much music. I might listen to more music. And Rdio is different than Pandora in that you can find a specific song, you can get a specific record, listen to the whole record, make a playlist, do everything that iTunes will do. So I haven't bought much lately. But probably the last thing I looked up on, well, that I've listened to much on Rdio is Young the Giant. I'm really liking that record. I like it. It has all the indie band flavor, but it does musically, but it doesn't have the sort of brooding seriousness that all these indies have. It's pretty happy, and I thought, well, good for those guys.
So, what is your favorite artist or band?
Oh, impossible. And I would have to say that no band has ever influenced me like the Beatles, and I don't think anyone can argue, just on statistics alone, that they're not the biggest band that's ever been in the world. Mm-hmm. But I'm old enough that I got to be around. I remember them playing on the Ed Sullivan Show. I think I was 8 or 9 years old. I remember seeing it. And of course I wanted to be Paul McCartney, and I had all this stuff. But I would have to say probably a lot of my involvement in music started there, with getting to experience the Beatles at a really young age. The melodies they wrote, the way they can continue to reinvent themselves. The two lead singer thing, which was really interesting. Most bands can't pull that off, and we have a band called Down Here that has 2 lead singers, so I think of that a lot. But if I have a favorite, I don't know that I could say favorite, but certainly most influential for me would be the Beatles.
So what's your favorite Beatles album?
Probably Revolver. It would be a tie between that and Abbey Road, I think. I love Abbey Road too. I love them all.
Have you ever been to the studio at Abbey Road and gotten to walk across the street?
I have.
Did you take your picture walking across the street?
I did not. No. I was just there with Diane. But at the time I was working for Sparrow, which is owned by EMI, which owns Abbey Road. So I got sort of an inside tour of it. And you know, the piano that Paul played Lady Madonna on is in the hallway, or at least it was at that time. It's sort of like a museum, but it's a working, you know, people still use all those instruments. And the back cover of Let It Be is a shot from the control room down into the studio. And when I stepped out onto the landing of those steps and looked down, I saw that picture and I sort of teared up. It's a little gross, but it was a fantastic tour to get to do that, and I've actually got to work a little bit at Abbey Road. I mean, it's still a working studio.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, going back a little bit to influential music and things like that, what was your first concert?
Well, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and I'm still a recovering Pentecostal, but one thing about that tradition is they love music, and they had people come through church all the time. But the first one I remember going to was a Christian music group called the Imperials, which was very cutting edge for its time. That would have been probably early or mid-70s. And they were sort of CCM on the edge, you know, at that time. It was a 4-part guy group, but they were doing contemporary music. And that's the first one I remember going to that was outside of my church.